What is going on, everybody, and on here? And tonight's video is a little bit of a public service announcement. So, a lot of folks have been asking me, what is the purpose of people going on TCGPlayer and selling cards for $1? And what does that do? What is the impact of that? And, is it a scam? Is it this? Is it that? So, I'm going to give you my opinion and what I see as the cause and effect through this. And, again, hopefully this is helpful. And I think the TCGPlayer team does a really, really nice job of unwinding this because this is kind of bullshit. But let me walk through it. So this happened last week to Cynthia's Garchomp in Destin Rivals, where if we go down here and we look at the graph, and right now it's listed right at around $300. I think lowest list is $285. The blue line here is the market price. And this is if you look here, this is the TCGPlayer calculated market price. This is the number that drives everything throughout this discussion. So keep that in mind. Now, TCGPlayer used to disclose this, the formula for this, but they've since made it private, which quite honestly I think is a smart thing because you don't want people to exploit it. But one thing I will mention is I have recently acquired a lot of cases of Outlaws of Thunder Junction. And using some of the different EV calculators, and we're working on one for our own that we're close on, but Mox Alpha, for example, that's one that a lot of folks use. It would show the EV calculation for a play box at $190, which is like, okay, great. Whatever. My cost is 114, 115, whatever the number is. There should be plenty of positive EV. Well, when I started digging into the data and we started to open cases, we were finding that the EV of the boxes was only sitting at like 125 to 135. So as we started looking at the data, what we found is the data is pulling off TCGPlayer market price. Now that market price is a lagging indicator on the market. So however they have the formula set up, it is not reflected of the lowest list in the market. And yes, they have that as well. But then you have a lot of items that, like foreign language cards, for example, or, you have like the Prismatic Evolutions ETB with just the card sleeves of the dividers for like $9.99. So things like that, just for the most part, I think they've done a nice job of excluding those, but it does muddy the waters with this stuff. And what I found was that the EV calculation was pulling stale data. What made it even worse was you could pull the EV based on the lowest list for direct. And this was an absolute disaster because direct had been down for so long. All the pricing information was stale because there hadn't been sales in months. So all the prices were inflated by like 40%. So, that's one of the things that we adjusted with our EV calc. It's live beta now. If you want to join the Discord, you can gain access to it and solicit some feedback. But the reason I tell the story is that in going through that, we found out that the market price here for TCGPlayer, it's lagging. So it's not necessarily reflective of the market, where there are cards that aren't, I guess I'll use the term thinly traded, but quite honestly, it just means that there's only a handful of sales a day or a handful of sales a week. Now, fast forward to Cynthia's Garchomp, and this is a perfect card for bad actors, if you will, to manipulate. And if you see here, you can see this went from a market price of $317 all the way down to $140 and then back up to $289. Now, it looks like let me double check here. It looks like they unwound all the sales at $1, but there were hundreds of sales that came through at $1. Now, everything's fixed. The market price is fixed. But at this point in time, the market price is showing $140.45. So you might say, Anon, why the fuck do we care? Because we're going to look at the lowest list, and that lowest list is all we can buy. And that is a great question at $284. Well, let me explain how the large sellers manage their prices on TCGPlayer. So we will go here. And if you go to pricing, this is on the seller side. You can go to something that's called mass price. So I've already clicked on this. I'm going to go here. And what it allows you to do, and this is a really, really cool tool, it does have some limitations, but they're limitations just because of the data sets we're working with. This is actually designed quite well. And what you do is you create your rules. And what it does, this is just my name. It says for all of my selling prices, my inventory only, I take the TCGPlayer market price. This is for Magic, all categories, basically everything. You can pick your game. You can pick for all cards. So it's defining my price based on TCG market price. Now, I can also select lowest list. I can also select lowest list in direct, which lowest list in direct is stale data. It looks like direct's getting closer to being up. We're not a direct seller right now because, quite honestly, with direct not working, it didn't make a whole lot of sense. We'll probably get there eventually. But again, they're going down a path with direct, at least this is my understanding, where they just want to do direct for the cards that sell the quickest. Well, that doesn't really help me a whole heck of a lot because the whole benefit of direct is you get to sell the cards that move fast along with the cards that don't, because people want to buy them from one location. I digress. So if you pull this based on lowest list, you have all of these no feedback, no name sellers undercutting the market, and you're basically going to screw yourself. Now, here you have to select modified by a hard dollar amount. So in this case, I just had this one for sample set at 25 cents. Now, if there's a way to set it at a percentage, I'm not sure it helps or doesn't help, but then you can define the minimum. My minimum is 25 cents. The problem is a lot of stores, they go into this and they're updating this price on a daily basis. So they're just going to run this rule. It's going to adjust everything to TCG market price. See this right here. So in this instance, in this moment in time, if any of the big stores had Cynthia's Garchomp, it would adjust to $140.45, which is the now market price that is going in here. And it's being modified by based on whatever that store has a rule set up for. So the store would inadvertently list a card well below what the market is because the TCG market price based on that manipulation is flawed. And quite honestly, I'm not sure there's anything that TCGPlayer can do unless they would somehow, they should probably write some sort of circuit breaker into their rule here. Just like if market price adjusts by, more than 15%, then just freeze it where it's at and then just do some sort of manual override at some point. I know it's a lot of data, but I don't think the market price has changed that much. So you can certainly write in a circuit breaker formula that at least forces you to look at it and it just kind of freezes things in time. But now what I would have to do is when I go to manage pricing, I'd have to go to reports, price differential, click on this, product all. And what this does, for those of you who don't use this, is the card set, condition, quantity, market price. This is the TCG marketplace price. So this is the price that I have the card listed at, not to be confused with on here, TCG market price. So there's a market price. There's also a marketplace price, two different things. So this shows that I am over the lowest list by $5.95, etc. So if I go back the other way, now these are all the cards where I am the lowest list in the market. So here's the marketplace price. This is the lowest list. Lowest list is obviously me. Personal tutor hasn't moved. A lot of these cards haven't moved. So what I have to do is then I'll have to go in and I'll look at this, and I'm probably market price. I'm probably lowest list at that point. And anytime I have $0 of differential, I need to go into each one of these manually and make sure that I just didn't set myself up for a giant disaster. Now, in most cases, it's because cards have gone up, and as cards go up, the marketplace price, the TCG market price lags because it's based on like the most recent 25 or 50 sales or something like that. So as cards spike, it does understate the price. Now, in the instance I mentioned you guys about Outlaws of Thunder Junction, the prices of those cards came down, and the market price, being a lagging measurement, was overstating the value of those cards. So if you understand the timing difference here, all of this makes perfect sense. And the only way, if you're a large store and you're running 5,000 SKUs, 10,000 SKUs, you have to use mass price, or you're just never going to keep up with the market. And then, from my perspective, I have to go in here and I have to look at any price differential. A lot of times I'm priced below the lowest list when you do it initially. So it at least gives you a red flag where it says, hey, you're under the lowest list. But then things adjust, and then you'll just see here. So I'm effectively the lowest list on these cards. So that's it in a nutshell. And quite honestly, this is why I believe the manipulation happens on some of these cards. I know there's a lot of folks on YouTube that just point it out and they're kind of scratching their head, but given the fact that I kind of get to see both sides of this, being, we're not a huge seller of singles. We have 2,000 and some SKUs, but it's pretty easy to see the impact of if the underlying measurement that everything's driven off of is adjusted because of these bullshit sales. When you adjust your price for that individual item, you're going to be understated pretty significantly. Somebody can buy the card. Now, look, you can always cancel it and deal with that stuff. So it's kind of a stupid thing that gets done. Because look, if I listed a card by accident and I saw that I undercut the market by $200, I'm canceling the order and I'm refunding. There's just no way around it. So I'm not sure how effective this is other than just messing around with the TCGPlayer data. But I did want to walk through at least what in my mind is the explanation as to why people do this and what the cause and effect is. So anyway, guys, hopefully this was informative. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, join the Discord, and we'll talk soon.